The worst rail firms cancel 800 trains per day ahead of the Christmas travel nightmare. We're going to read into this exclusive from iNews, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from the iPaper, with the headline of the worst rail firms have cancelled 800 trains per day ahead of the Christmas travel nightmare. Engineering works and expensive rail replacement buses look set to add to passengers' misery this Christmas. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. It's the most wonderful time of the year where if you are somebody who isn't getting a lift from A to B, or you don't own your own car, it is going to be packed on trains and buses to try and get to where you've got to go. Yeah, that's becoming a traditional thing, in particular here in England. And I just don't understand this. Like, here's the thing, right? And as someone who does travel on during the Christmas period as well, because I travel during the Christmas period to see family as well, and I don't drive. You know, I use public transport. So I know what it's like, and it is miserable. I hate it. And we've got and me and my partner, we got to travel Christmas Eve as well, and it's just like, oh, you know, it's just not looking forward to it at all. But I understand that engineering works need to be done, right? But my God, like, why does it always have to be a case of everyone has to rush to get to where they got to, and they have to close everything down so early? You know, I just... Here's the thing, like, people will argue, well, the train workers want to get home for Christmas too. And as they say, yeah, that's true. Well, isn't this where you make the argument of where we need to have this is where I will throw in the argument of, well, maybe we shouldn't have driver trains. Maybe we should have driverless trains so that we don't have this issue on Christmas. You know, it's just... Especially, like, cancelling 800 trains per day. Like, it's just insane. But the thing that for me sticks out the most is that these rail companies, they're going to be nationalised anyway. So to them, they don't care. They're just, at the end of the day, they just want to try and save as much money as they possibly can before they're bought out by the government as well. That's how I see it more, you know. And I hope that when it's under the state's hands, that we don't have this situation. That there is more control with our national rail. And that we have better services overall, because for too long it's just not been good enough. It really, really hasn't. It's not been good enough at all. I mean, like, this headline of itself speaks volumes, and I'm glad. One thing that I'm very lucky in where I am, because I live in London. We're very fortunate that there's apart from Christmas Day, there is still a service running. Yes, it is a limited service, the underground network, but it is still running to a certain extent. So people are able to get to A to B. There are buses running, even though they're limited during Christmas Eve and Boxing Day, but they are running. So people are able to get to where they need to go to. But if you're in a rural area and you rely on a train or a certain rail firm, you know, I'm telling you now, if you haven't already figured this out, if you're not giving yourself extra time to travel to where you're going, you need to do that. You really need to do that, because these guys could easily cancel or screw you over. And if you've got some extra cash, better have some just in case you need to get a cab. You know, because this is also a boon time for the cab industry as well, because they will take advantage of these trains screwing people over, especially when they cancel and delay their services as well. So Britain's 10 worst train companies are cancelling almost 800 services a day as travellers face chaos on the rail network over the Christmas holidays. Passengers have been warned that rail ministry will ramp up over the festive period, with London NorthWestern Railway urging people to avoid trains from Christmas Eve to January the 2nd, and Great Western Railway telling passengers not to bring massive suitcases because of reduced services and seats. Those who need to take rail replacement bus services due to engineering works are also being quoted prices as high as £90 to make the slow journey home for Christmas. The performance of firms including Avanti, Northern and CrossCountry have come under fierce criticism over the past 12 months, with all three having been criticised by the government over unacceptable delays and cancellations. However, despite anger over the service, rail fares in England are set to rise above inflation by 4.6% next year, and train company bosses have continued to receive bumper pay and bonuses. So despite those services getting worse and worse and worse, they're still taking home fat checks while you're also paying more out for our rail fares. Yeah, privatisation works, doesn't it? Avanti, which operates the West Coast main line between London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool and Glasgow, part cancelled or fully cancelled 8,192 trains between November 2023 and November 2024, an average of 22 per day and more than 9% of its planned services. In 2019, when the franchise was operated by Virgin, the average number of trains cancelled stood at 9 per day. Northern, which has been under public control since 2020, cancelled 74,561 services over the 12 months period, the equivalent of 204 trains per day. In 2019, the operator was cancelled 111 trains per day. CrossCountry is the worst performing operator in Britain, having cancelled 8,534 trains in the past year, more than 10% of its service. The average rate of cancellation across all 24 train operations in Britain was 5%, the equivalent of more than 1,000 trains per day. Passengers have said they're being forced onto the roads by high levels of cancellations and call on the rail industry to tackle staff shortages and crumbling infrastructure to provide a more reliable service. Michael Solomon Williams of passenger group Campaign for Better Transport said, these cancellations, especially combined with the upcoming above inflation fare rise, are causing travel ministry and putting people off travelling by train. The government and rail industry need to invest in both the workforce and infrastructure to sort this out, so that passengers can choose the train with confidence. Yeah, and if you want to get people off the road, and especially when it comes to reducing emissions, this is what you need to do. You need to get these rail companies working. There it is, the 10 worst rail operations for train countries. There's a percentage of trains cancelled there. Cross country, 10.1%. Avanti West Coast, 9.4%. Northern, 9.1%. Southwestern, 7.6%. Go over Thames Link, 6.5%. TFW, 6.4%. Linear, 6.1%. West Midlands, 6.1%. Great Western, 5.8%. And Trans-Pennine Express, 5.2%. The Vickers Cummins Network Rail has warned passengers of major disruption caused by engineering works over the Christmas and New Year. London Station, Liverpool Street and Paddington will both be closed for several days after the last train leaves on Christmas Eve, while the main line for St Pancras to Leicester, Derby, Nottingham Forest will be shut for 9 days. Trains into Paddington will be diverted to Euston, meaning that station will be busier than usual. London NorthWestern Railway has urged passengers to travel either side of the festive period to avoid disruption. Work on the West Coast Main Line will mean no services running through Crewe on December 27th and reduced services and longer journeys until the 5th of January. I need to check there's one or two of these I'm a little bit like, huh? I better double check that. I mean, I've checked them like 3 times, some of the other ones. Train managers at Avanti West Coast are also set to go on strike in a dispute over rest day workings, causing severe disruption on New Year's Eve and the 2nd of January, as well as every Sunday from the 12th of January to the 25th of May. The Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander has called on the firm to get back around the table with the IMT union to spare passengers further travel misery in the new year. She said, what I want to see happen is for the leadership of Avanti West Coast, which is currently a privately owned train operating company, to get back around the table with RTM to see what can be done to avoid action happening. Labour is promising to get a grip on the country's rail crisis through its plans for nationalisation. But questions are mounting over the resignation of the former Transport Secretary Louise Hay and the performance of operators, which is already under public control. Alexander Haig's replacement announced early this month that the operator of Last Resorts, which currently runs Northern, Linear, Trans-Pennine Express and Southeastern, will be taken on 3 more franchises next year, Southwestern C2C and Greater Anglia. It will also be rebranded as a DFT's Operator Limited. However, critics say the poor reliability of firms such as Northern and Linear, while under public control, shows nationalisation has not solved deep-rooted problems. Well, the thing is that they are still restructuring all these operations. So, while people like the critics of nationalisation, it's like at the moment they're in the process of taking them all in. The body that they're going to be building this around is still being processed at the moment. So once all the rail firms are under nationalisation, that's when the body will be formed, and that's when we can start seeing what they do. So here, how has your train operation performed? Across Britain, operators cancelled 368,843 trains between November 2023 and November 2024. That's around 5% of 7.2 million services planned. Here's how the largest operators have performed. So CrossCountry, 23 trains cancelled per day, 10.1%. Avanti West Coast, 22 trains per day, 9.4%. Northern, 204 trains per day, 9.1%. Southwestern, 115 trains per day, 7.6%. Go over Thameslink. I use Thameslink a lot. 193 trains per day, 6.5%. If I'm absolutely honest, 9 times out of 10 whenever I use Thameslink, I don't normally, like, they are more reliable than other. I don't really have too much issues with Thameslink when I use them, if I'm honest, guys. But there are times they do let me down. It's very, very rare. TFW, 61 trains per day, 6.4%. Linear, 9 trains per day, 6.1%. West Midlands, 66 trains per day, 6.1%. Great Western, 88 trains per day, 5.8%. TBE, 15 trains per day, 5.2%. Merseyrail, 27 trains per day, 4.9%. East Midlands, 23 trains per day, 4.8%. London Overground, that's the Overground, so that's the orange line on the TfL tube map for anyone reference. 66 trains per day, 4.5%. The Elizabeth line, that's the new one, 41 trains per day, 4.2%. So even though it's a brand new service, we're still having some of it. Southeastern Rail, that's the one of the most frequent ones that I use. 50 trains per day, 3.3%. Chilean, 9 trains per day, 3.3%. ScotRail, 47 trains per day, 2.5%. And C2C, 7 trains per day, 2.1%. Great Anglia, 25 trains per day, 2.1%. So many of the cancellations at Northern have been caused by a lack of rest day, working agreement with conductors in the western side of the business, which covers places such as Manchester, Blackpool and Liverpool. The government believes it has secured a breakthrough when it has offered a new 4-month deal to the RM10 union last month, but it was rejected by members. The embarrassing defeat will mean Northern has to issue a more do not travel warning to travellers through December, particularly on Sundays. Passenger groups warn last-minute cancellations, especially on Sunday, will continue for the foreseeable future because of staffing issues. Sunday or rest day workings is a complex issue across the rail industry. Analysts by the paper found at least 16 of the 24 operators have had to cancel service due to the shortage of train crew in 2024. This needs to be addressed. This shortage of train crew needs to be addressed. Before she stepped down, Haig told MP she wanted to tackle outdated working practices and pledged to recruit more staff to give government more leverage. And this here, bus replacement services that still cost £90. If most bus replacement services, whenever I've had to take bus replacement service in my past, in London, it didn't cost anything. And if I'm absolutely honest, if a train service is not running, the bus replacement service should be free. It should be free because especially for, you pay for a journey, it should be free. A standard return ticket from Liverpool to London on Friday, 27th December will cost £90.30. Most of the available journeys on that day will involve a bus replacement service from Liverpool Lime Street to Stoke-on-Trent and then a train into Euston. That will take at least 3 hours and 60 minutes and an hour longer than the unusual travel time. An hour out of your life gone because they're not running. Spare thought for anyone trying to travel between London and Norwich. Most of the journeys on the 27th of November involve 3 changes and a bus replacement service through Essex with an estimated travel time of 3 hours and 12 minutes. And that costs £83.40 for a return ticket. It's a similar story for those trying to get from Bedford into London. The journey involves a replacement bus service to Milton Keynes, and it will take 1 hour and 24 minutes. A return ticket costs of £40.60. Gareth Bacon, Shadow Transport Minister for the Conservatives, said after giving inflation busting rises to public sector employees with no strings attached, Labour failed to secure agreement with RMT to ensure sufficient staff to operate services, inflicting further misery on Northern train passengers. The government's railway reorganisation plans will not solve this problem. They will merely funnel billions of pounds of taxpayer money into an ideological project to appease the unions. It would be far better if Labour put passengers first and stood up for their union paymasters. Alexander defended the government's deals, saying, "Let me be clear about the difference between what is happening under the previous Conservative government, who have had scorched earth approach to industrial relations, and we saw strike after strike after strike across the whole of the network." Yeah, let's be very clear about that. There were more strikes here under Conservatives than Labour. Let's be clear. Nobody wants these strikes to happen, but it's not on the same scale as what we saw under the previous Conservative government. Rail fare rises in 2025 in Scotland and Wales are yet to be announced, but I expect to be similar to the 4.76% increase in England. Can't speak for the West. I can't speak for Welsh and Scottish railways. They can those in the comments from those areas. Feel free to add to this. An Avanti West Coast spokesperson said, whilst we are not in the position we want to be in terms of overall performance, there's been a significant improvement in the latter part of 2024. We have developed a joint performance plan which has been a positive impact in the latest quarter. Our overall cancellations reduced to 4.3% in the 4-week period ending November the 9th, which was the lowest for over a year. A spokesperson for CrossCountry said for the last 12 months had brought a range of challenges to running trains on time, not least the frequency and severity of named storms, which have taken place in the highest frequency and severity for almost 10 years. This is really important. We have to take that into account when we talk about some trains and cancellations, especially when there's weather issues. We continue to work with Network Rail and other rail industries partners to mitigate the impacts of delay causing events on customers, not only those caused by severe weather, but when trains have to slow down during repairs to infrastructure. And the spokesperson for Northern said, we are working hard to address issues with train crew availability so we can improve reliability for our customers. Since the summer, we have secured a rest day working agreements with our drivers. However, an offer was recently put to our conductors in North West to secure a commitment to work Sundays was rejected by Avanti union members. The Department for Transport spokesperson said, as part of our plans to reform the railways, we're determined to move forward a 7-day working week and end the over-reliance on rest day working, giving passengers the certainty and reliability that they deserve. And this last bit, this is pumper pay deals for rail bosses here. So this is the money that we are paying them, while we're also paying more for our rail fares. So CrossCountry is owned by Aviva Trains UK Trains Limited, which also runs Chilean and Grand Central Railways. The highest paid director, David Brown, receives £567,000 in 2022, according to the most recent accounts available. Mike Cooper is the chief executive of wider Aviva Group and took home a pay package worth £1.1 million. Aviva is owned by First Group, and chief executive Graham Sutherland saw his pay increase to £1.4 million for 2024, which is more than £796,000 was in his bonus. Chief financial officer Ryan McDonald earned £2.8 million. A report to shareholders said revenue and profits from open access rail business exceeded expectations. Northern is effectively under public control through the operator of last resort, an arm's length business owned by the Department of Transport. Directors at Northern are therefore not entitled to performance bonuses, but receive pay and pension contributions worth £952,000 for the year ending March 2024. The highest paid is Managing Director Teresa Williams, who earns £318,000. Well, to be fair, considering the pays of some of these lot, if I'm absolutely honest, at least it's better than what the private guys are getting. Robin Gibsky, Chief Executive of the OBLR, who was paid $236,000 for the year ending March 2024. Chief Financial Officer Richard Harrison earned $220,000, and Non-Executive Chair Richard George earned $150,000. Spokesperson for Aviva Group said, we do not comment on specific directors' pay. No, of course you don't. Directors' remunerations, including pay, pension contributions, and success-based performance related on schemes linked to key performance indicators set across all Aviva Group's sub-societies in our operations across 11 counties. Remuneration recorded in the report and accounts will reflect overall performance of the Aviva Group and companies is entirely funded by the Aviva Group and therefore separate to any operation contact held by the Department of Transport. Yeah, but guess where your money comes? As a private company, you're still making money off the backs of passengers. The rail fares, let's be clear about this. Let's be as very clear as we can. Rail fares are too high and they're going even higher. It is outrageous. The amount of money it costs to take a rail fare. It's ridiculous. And as somebody who I use it to get to A to B to get to places. I have a 2 Together rail card. I have a Network rail card to try and save me money whenever I travel on the trains, because it's just to try and save money. But even with them, I still feel like I'm paying out of my backside whenever I use the rail service. And those who use season tickets, those who are travelling up the north, as it says there, it is absolutely diabolical for them. It's and obviously down on the coasts as well. It's just not been good enough. And we can't throw Labour under a bus just yet. We have, they need to take them all in. What their project is going to take time. So I'm not prepared to criticise Labour on decisions that they make right now. Over the next couple of years, we will see if rails improve under nationalisation or not. Once it's all come into play, and that will have to give time. But I'm happy to see the back of these privatised rail companies, because at the end of the day, their objective is to try and make a profit. It's not about giving passengers the best service. That's just a smokescreen to make it look like their priority is making money. That's always the priority of private companies. So what do you guys think? What do you guys make of the situation around our train firms? What do you guys make of some of the numbers that we have seen there from this exclusive from the iPaper? Are you travelling during the Christmas period? Do you have these issues? Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comments section below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. If you want to go one step further and finally support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.